Welcome back to Well, Yes, the podcast where science meets wellness trends. And this is our last episode for the year, and I couldn't think of a better subject than health trends for 2026. And I have a surprise guest here today. We were thinking about this topic. I'm here with Brooke, who I'll let introduce herself in a second, who is the brain behind all the trends that we're publishing here at Hum. And Brooke, hello, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Walter. Thanks for having me. What a treat. I'm in front of the camera with you.
I know, well, no, it's a treat. Honestly, I'm so happy we're doing this together. And what people don't know is there's a lot of conversations within the office around like what should we cover, etc. And you always come up with the greatest ideas. So I'm so happy to have you here, specifically as it comes to wellness trends. At Hum, we obviously try to think not just the today, but also imagine the future. And Brooke has been really instrumental in that part of the company. So I'm really happy to have you here. And what a fun way to conclude the year. How many episodes did we do this year? I think 20 something, right?
We neared 20 and we
Oh,
even
wow.
started a season two, and we have a lot more to come in the new year, and we're going to shake things up. So I hope everyone tunes in 2026.
And Brooke, apologies, I was a little late today because you are ahead of me. Where are you right now?
I'm in London. I'm in the UK. I don't have an accent. I am American, but I'm now in the UK on a new adventure in life.
Listen, I used to live there, have the best time. All right, let's do the wellness trends. We're doing a countdown. We identified 16 trends that we thought are going to be huge in 2026. Please don't get angry if we don't get them all right, but I do think we have our finger on the pulse of things. And why don't we start? We go backwards. So we're starting to count down from 16 to 1, and then let's have a chat. So, number 16. Functional
Functional
foods.
food.
Brooke, why are functional foods on the top 16?
Well, we've seen functional foods explode in 2025. I even think we saw a little bit of this in 2024, and it's just gaining more momentum. And if you have been paying attention in grocery stores, you've seen things like the David Bar, which is protein packed. So we're seeing foods that have ingredients like magnesium, L-theanine, electrolytes, probiotics, protein, polyphenols, the list goes on. And these processed foods are now being packaged with these ingredients to really help people get more nutritional bang for their buck, if you will. So we're seeing this category explode. I think it's going to be bigger in 2026 as innovation just rapidly, keeps moving forward.
I agree with that. Look, I have been, I had a functional drinks company many, many years ago. So that was always a trend, right? But like now we're seeing so much hyper, I would say, focus on certain ingredients, maxing those. You mentioned protein, of course, but we find mood balancing chocolates. We see so much innovation, and typically innovation is a good bellwether when it comes to future trends. So next year should be really exciting as it regards in regards to functional foods. And we are very much looking forward to Expo West, which is a big fair here in California, where all the companies are presenting their latest and greatest. All right, moving on to number 15, Matcha Mania.
This is my favorite.
All
I'm a
right.
matcha girl. Okay, so matcha is big in the Hum office, just for a little behind the scenes action. So you all know that many of us love matcha, and it's a very hot topic in the office. So matcha exploded in 2025 even further, and there was a matcha shortage because it gained such popularity. So I think that this is going to continue in 2026. It's jitter-free caffeine, which is a personal reason why I moved to matcha and I've never felt better. And I do love coffee. I love the smell of it, the ritual of it. I love how coffee tastes actually, but moving to matcha has changed a lot for my health, my gut. I feel less foggy in my brain, and I do attribute that to having a cup of matcha every morning instead of my 4 shots of espresso, but no knock on the espresso world. Anyway, Walter, do you like matcha?
I do like it, and I have a bit of matcha at home, but to be honest, I'd rather just press a button on my espresso machine and then it's ready, as opposed to like doing a little, you have to whisk it all up and like I'm not even sure I know how to do it properly, to be honest. I should watch a few YouTube videos to get me up to speed. But I do like the taste massively. I like matcha as an ingredient in baked goods as well. I think like a cookie with matcha or cake with matcha is absolutely delicious. So, and I love the color too. What a nice color. I mean, it's just a beautiful color. So, but I like it. I like the taste. Just making it myself, I'm a little bit too, let's put it this way, lazy for it. But I do like it very much. All right, moving on to number 14, body
Body
clock
clock
optimization.
optimization. Oh, this is a good one. What do you think of this one?
Well, you must know about it because you just moved to the UK and now you're like, I had to adjust to this. But like, look, I travel a lot. I do think once you travel through time zones, you really notice how much your body literally follows a certain rhythm. And when we get out of this rhythm, we can become like crying babies. So I do think staying in tune with your body clock and really paying attention when you get tired, when you naturally wake up, all that kind of stuff, I'm a huge fan. And what we
Mm.
have noticed is like that people really pay attention here because they suddenly understand it's not just about feeling tired, but there's so many other things that are linked to it, including your mood, your digestion, and like all these things that we know need to function literally like operate like a clockwork. So I do think this is a huge trend. We understand that light plays a big impact here. I read recently an article about one of the Formula One drivers. I don't know which one it was, but what he does, because they travel through all these time zones for the Grand Prix, he literally wears these glasses where the light simulates the light of the destination, right? So, like, even days before he gets into the right time zone just through lights. He has this sort of like, goggles basically that, simulate the light at the destination time zone. So I do think when you see things like that, people really pay attention and trends start in these sort of like funny areas. This is going to be a huge one in my opinion. And obviously, with sleep, we just launched like a magnesium to support better sleep, etc. And that is instrumental, obviously, getting a good night's sleep. But I do think this is going to be big, specifically since we're so bombarded with like stimulants, stress factors, our phone stimulators, like with quick dopamine hits, etc. And I do think that the body clock, is something that people will pay a lot of attention to and understand that when it is working like a Swiss train, it is incredible. What's your perspective?
It's massively instrumental in I think our mental health because a happy gut is a happier mind, in my opinion. But I do think it's something to pay attention to. People that travel frequently will really understand what we're saying. And for those who are crossing time zones, there's an app, I believe it's called Time Shift. Where you start to acclimate to the time zone prior to your arrival. It's actually a practice I've been doing in my own life actually throughout the years. So if I know I'm going to go 8 hours or 9 hours ahead, I'll actually a week prior start going to bed incrementally earlier and shifting my meals, maybe my workout routine. And then waking up much earlier as well. It really helps because your body is like this machine and it wants to work really well oiled. So when you go into a time zone, perhaps you're experiencing constipation, moodiness. You might feel a bit more inflamed, exhausted. These all go back to your circadian rhythm, and we have it for a reason. There's also a thing called light therapy, something I've practiced in my personal life. I'll wake up and go hike with the sunrise and I'll let it seep into my eyes, into my face, safely so, and just get a few minutes of that and do some deep breathing and ground. And then, there's a reason when the sun goes down, you want to eat right before the sun goes down and start winding down to go to bed. And then that really helps your sleep optimization. I'm a huge fan of this one. I think this trend is going to be huge. I think we can also attribute it a bit to wearables too, because those are all the rage, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So anyway, big fan of this trend 2026.
All right, let's go to our next trend. Number 13 on the list, effortless longevity.
Ritual.
Yes,
Oh, I added the rituals.
no worries. Effortless longevity. Brooke, you have been talking about longevity long before everybody else has. Now, tell me a little bit about how you got there and how you identified this trend so early. This was something you brought to my attention literally like 3 years ago. Um, and why do you think next year is going to be the moment for effortless longevity?
Rewinding the clock back when the term biohacker started solidifying and people were kind of waking up to some of these experts, rather, you have access to some of the greatest minds via Instagram and TikTok now. Not all of them are legitimate, but I'm talking about the legitimate pool. So I think I started to catch on through my own research and a better understanding of my own body and wanting to optimize it further to my happiness, to being still, to my gut. I mean, you name it. It was through my own research that I went down this rabbit hole, and then I started to learn from people that had published great, literature or were posting on Instagram in the Times. They'll be unnamed for now because we're sticking to the trend, but that's how it started for me. And then also just reading a lot for work. And at Hum and leading editorial at Hum, I have to be on top of these things and understand them for the brand so that we can stay ahead of the curve and also provide great knowledge to our customers. But I think then last year with wearables, which we'll get into again, and this access to these great minds and people becoming more inclined to optimize their own health. I mean, we're really seeing this. The younger generation isn't drinking as much. So it's a multi-pronged situation, if you will. But now I think people might be getting burnt out on biohacker life. It's too much. Do we need to have an infrared sauna in our house? Do we have to cold plunge? Do we have to steam? Do I have to lift heavy and only eat protein? It's like, yes, all of those things are great. However, everyone is different and our lifestyles are different, and it's not one size fits all. So that goes to the more effortless longevity, if you will, I think, for this trend because people are kind of getting burnt out on wellness, which is the anti-wellness. So
100%. And that's why we added the word effortless right here, because we want wellness to fit like a glove and not like being this complete reinvention for yourself, because people do fatigue very quickly if you don't adapt the new behavior. It's very hard, a new habit. It's really hard to stick to it, right? So I do think this is a huge trend and just making things a little easier. And there's just a few other things we can detect that as well. And we'll come to those in our top position. So you'll see how the picture develops here. All right, moving on to number 12. We call this one and tongue and strips. Now,
did
before
not see
before
that.
before people get carried away here, let's tone it down for a second. What did we mean by this one, Brooke?
Okay, this is doubling down in an ultra efficient way of a wellness format. So tongue supplement strips, they're fast, dissolvable, and discreet. Just placing them on your tongue. Those are gaining popularity. So it's, for people that don't like swallowing pills, capsules, things like that, which many struggle with. So this is just an alternative on how to take your supplements. And so we're seeing this also, it's fast absorption and gut-friendly delivery, and it's expanding across vitamins, antioxidants, and adaptogens. So I think this is convenience, to be honest, and also helping expand for personal preference.
Yeah, we've seen liposomal formulas, showing up left, right, and center. And I do think, again, a few brands were ahead of their time here, but there are more and more brands adopting this new format. And it does make sense for certain ingredients, right, to have this form of delivery, not for all of them. So I think this one will play out next year a little bit more, and we'll see who the true winners are within the space. But exciting new trend. All right, moving on to number 11, we have clean
Clean.
caffeine.
Okay, so I have my notes here too, if you see me looking a bit off screen. So consumers sent a very clear message in 2025, and sometimes these things, when they ramp up in one year, they just go full force in the next, and people want to feel energized. What's interesting at Hum is we have seen an uptick in the consumers being interested in energy, and we certainly do provide supplements to help um, boost energy. And so we're seeing this category of clean caffeine on the rise. So Old school energy drinks are out that make you all shaky and a little bit I don't know, dizzy, and I'm sure so many have experienced. I grew up in the age of a soda I won't name that was not clean caffeine.
You can name it. I'm half Austrian, Brooke. It's
Okay.
okay.
The Red Bull era, and no knock to Red Bull. And 2026 energy products, they're going to focus on clarity, mood balance, and mental endurance rather than the sheer stimulation of. So again, this is going back to like this like really kind of clean, more clear life, I think a lot of people are going for. So yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, gone are the days of the honey boo boo juice, as it's called, right? So I don't know if you remember that time, but I think what people are really looking forward to is being, as I said, alert, productive, but not jittery. And life is demanding. I mean, let's also take a double step back here. Like things are so much more expensive. We have to work so hard just to pay our bills and to make a living. So I do think this all plays into this. You can't afford these spikes and then have a crash afterwards. So I do think, being alert, being there, operating at optimum. I think we're seeing this a lot in general, like this optimization theme, right? Where people like whether it's better sleep, etc. And I think this is just another area within the, I would say, need states of a consumer, where energy is obviously one of the biggest ones and has been probably the first, if you want, functional beverage that has really taken off globally. Um, I do believe that this clean energy or clean caffeine movement, meaning like you don't get these sort of like over stimulating spikes, will have a lot of like, I think, room to grow. And they are also like from an ingredient perspective, different ways to approach energy as well. So I think it's gonna be an exciting year for energy specifically. And as always, things come and go in cycles, but I do think this one has definitely a lot of like staying power, because who doesn't want that? Like, who doesn't want to be more energized but not all jittery? Who doesn't want to function more properly? Who doesn't want to be more productive? All that kind of stuff. So this one is a big one next year, and I think you're spot on here. All right, moving on to our 10th spot. Brooke, why did you take this one?
You want to say it at the same time or just take
Like
it?
you take this one.
Wearable wellness. So this is all wearables wellness. So wearables have been around for quite a long time. We have the Fitbit, the Whoop, the Aura. In 2025, I think that these wearables got even more sophisticated. We're seeing new features roll out on their apps. And then in 2026, I think this is just going to accelerate as technology gets smarter. And so we'll have the Aura Ring, the Whoop, the Apple Watch. And they're tracking everything from your sleep, to your heart health and your cardiovascular fitness. And I don't think those are going anywhere. I think they're going to get smarter. They're going to get smaller. We're going to be able to probably implant them in our ear, but don't quote me on that yet. So I'm really into wearable wellness for information, and information is empowering.
Do
Do you have
you
any perspective on
do
this
you
one?
like I'm not a, this one, this is why I gave you this one, because I'm not wearing any wellness. So I'm just curious, like, do you have an Aura Ring, a Whoop, an Apple Watch? Or, like, how do you measure your all of it?
Got them all. So I wear an Apple Watch every single day. I also have a Garmin, but my Apple Watch is a part of my daily health routine, and it tracks my workouts. And then I also wear an Aura Ring because I'm really big on optimizing my sleep. I'm a really good sleeper, and so I will sleep 8 to 9 solid hours a night, and I have a very strict regimen when I'm not socializing or have something to do. But if I'm at home in my routine, it is quite strict, and the Aura Ring keeps me on track. And it's really nice to see the
All right. Okay. Number nine, Brooke, I'll give you this one as well, since you were again literally the first one to bring it to my attention well before it made it into the mainstream media.
creatine. Creatine, it's really shocked the wellness world, I think, particularly with females, because creatine has been so synonymous with men and weightlifting and really like bulky men. It's really interesting. Creatine for women has been huge, and I think it's going to continue because now they are finding out there are incredible cognitive benefits when you creatine loads, so 20 or higher. Most people kind of take like 5 to 10, but then when you start loading, that's when the cognitive benefits kick in. So this has become a top supplement for women, and we are now seeing women own that market increasingly so more than men. But what it does is it draws water into your muscles and helps with repair. So it's a great workout additive, if you will. And then also it helps with PMS and fatigue and again, muscle recovery. So it's a standout nutrient for energy, strength, and longevity. I'm really into this. I have been a creatine user. It's again highly personal. You have to make sure that you feel good on it and it works for you, but it's the longest existing supplement and the most studied, which
Interesting.
is really interesting.
I'm so curious about this trend because I remember it being a huge thing in the 90s, and then it had its sort of real moment, and then it disappeared for a little bit and nobody talked about it. And now it's back in full swing. And I'm really curious, like, is the creatine conversation here to stay for a long time? But it sounds like it, like from what we're seeing. I think what they've done in a very intelligent way is like talking to a whole new audience, where they moved it from the sort of like gym bro conversation into the mainstream, and now have literally gained much more of a following within a within women's within the female population. So I think this is going to be interesting to follow this one. I'm really excited about this one. All right, moving on to trend number 8. Should we do it together? All right, one, two, three.
A
AI.
health. Do you want to do it again?
All
Okay.
right, AI health coaching.
AI health coaching. Yes. So AI coaching, do you want to say it again at the same time or no?
We can try. Okay, let's try. One, two, three.
AI
AI health coaching.
coaching. We got it. We got it.
I think we have a bit of a lag between you and I. It's like
Yeah, AI has infiltrated our lives.
it
I don't know
has.
if you have a perspective on this or want to kick it off, but it's everywhere and
It
it's becoming a health coach.
it is. And look, I mean, I think the smart thing, although the unique thing about AI, it's not like a software that does the same thing over and over again. It literally learns about you, and the more it learns, the more it understands on like what your struggles are, your your I think any roadblocks that you may encounter. It's also really great in flattering you. I didn't realize this. I don't know about you, but like suddenly, like the AI spoke to me in a very flattery way. It was like, oh, that's nice. I want to talk to you more often, basically. Of course this is all based on like psychology. So we engage more with the AI. I don't know if you noticed this. It's like they always keep the conversation going. So rather than like answering a question, they just like follow up with a, would you like me to explore this for you or that? And like, they really want you to stay with the AI. But having said that, um, and I want to call this out. Obviously, this is a new technology that has a lot of like upsides and downsides. I mean, it can be incredibly powerful, but the one call out I do have, please, please, if you before making any sort of big decisions based on AI advice, do cross-reference them with a professional perspective, because sometimes it just can imagine things, and they call it hallucinations. Obviously, that's a big issue, but also like the sources are not always existent. So I always recommend to like just take a double check what AI is recommending and verify the sources, and ideally discuss it with a professional that really knows that space, specifically if you make any bigger decisions. But we're talking about trends here. We're not endorsing any of these technologies. This is going to be a huge trend. And quite frankly, it has allowed so many people to access information that they had a hard time accessing beforehand in a very convenient way and at a very small price, if you will. So that is here to stay. We all know this. I mean, you could argue this should be number one on our list, but I do think because technology is still in its infancy, specifically when it comes to expert advice, that there's going to be a moment of adaptation. But it made in the top 10 for a very good reason. Now, number 7 is a really interesting one that we have on our list here. Should we call it out together? All right. MRIs.
Yeah. Yes, preventative scans, they're trending. They've been around for a little bit of time, but it's taken the last few years to really gain more mainstream momentum. But these preventative scans can clock your body from head to toe and call out in real time, essentially, what's going on with your body. So it's imaging accuracy and lower costs. Consumers turn to whole body MRI and biomarker panels to track long form health risk before symptoms arise. So it's preventative and also looking in real time. So I think that these are going to become more accessible, more widestream. We have a mainstream, excuse me. There's a place here in London called Necco that does this. And it also scans your body for your freckles and moles as well. So it's almost acting like a dermatologist in a sense, in addition to the other biomarkers being read.
Yeah, and look, they're like again, you're pairing existing technologies with emerging technologies, and obviously MRIs is one thing, right? But also the interpretation of the results and of the images supported by technology, specifically AI, can really move this technology further and I would say really improve it. And there's just more availability. So in the past, you would do it as sort of like, I would say as a reaction to something, whereas now people adopting MRIs as a preventative technology. There have been, as always, very high-profile people on television talking about this throughout, from entertainment to politics, etc. So I do think that this is something that we'll see more, and also like access to them, the costs have come down massively, and there are companies specializing in that. So we think that's going to be a very interesting part of the wellness world in the years to come. All right, moving on to number 6. Brooke, you take this one.
Weightlifting for women. This is paramount, and I'm so glad that it has become a quote unquote trend. But really, in truth, this will be here to stay because, weightlifting is paramount for bone density and metabolic health. There are so many incredible resources that we have access to now, and there are quite a few influencers or excuse me, like PhDs that I follow in this space. I'm also someone who's integrated weightlifting into my routine in the last, I would say, more seriously about 8 months, but I have been lifting for over a year now. I'm a runner. It's really important that I lift to strengthen my joints, but it's important for people in terms of longevity. It also, I think, has made me a little bit happier. I feel stronger. So weightlifting for women is you're seeing it everywhere, and it's also they're finding out that it helps improve perimenopause and menopausal symptoms. So I think in 2026 we're going to see this continue, and we're going to see it morph and continue, I think, into something bigger that we don't even know yet. So expect strength training content, more of that. There's a lot on TikTok and Instagram now, and also YouTube. We're going to see apps, help facilitate this for women, but also people alike, and programs specifically built for female physiology. There are also weightlifting gyms popping up here and there. There's a new weightlifting program at a gym in LA. So I think we're just going to see this start to trickle across the globe, and that is my prediction.
All right. Um, you unpacked this one so beautifully. I don't have to add anything to this one. The next one, number 5, I'm extremely interested in from an industry perspective. Let's give it a go together. All right.
Mhm.
Next gen,
Protein.
next gen proteins. Look, so
Exciting.
basically, and this is something, we obviously, when we plan ahead and you look at what's happening within supply chain, etc., to give our listeners a bit of a perspective here from like behind the scenes in the industry, the price of protein, clear protein specifically, um, has increased by literally 70%, like within the last couple of months, right? And there's a couple of factors for this. Interest in protein, we have spoken about this many, many times on this podcast, is just increasing. We know people need to get more protein into their diet, specifically when they are on a calorie restricted diet. For example, when you're on like a weight loss drug. Um, Proteins are playing a really important role here, and actually more seems to be more. That's sort of the latest and greatest. And what this has done is like this big shift in the consumer behavior when it comes to like weight management, but also like the understanding of how important the role of protein is to build healthy muscle mass that you can then maintain throughout. And you pair this obviously with longevity. So all these factors coming together, like people have live longer, they're interested in longevity, but also they're losing for the first time, the population is getting thinner, and those like drugs make you, obviously restrict your diet, but then as a result, you have to make sure you're getting more protein in your diet, etc. So all of these things combined have led to a protein almost shortage, I would say. And on top of that, because people don't want to eat so much, this next generation of proteins are coming, like the clear protein, for example, a big trend. And what people don't know is like to make clear protein, you start with a normal protein and then you process it into a clear protein. But because of the protein trend that we have seen in general, like for example, Starbucks just ordered 200 truckloads of protein to serve in their coffee shops, basically. There's a whole shortage. I mean, it's just like everybody's going wild about protein, but these next gen proteins is really what has driven, I would say, this demand, and people are just really hungry, or in many cases, if it's a sort of clear protein, thirsty for it. So watch the space. Proteins will have a big moment, like creatine is going to have a big moment, but next gen proteins, number five on our list. Anything you want to add here, Brooke?
No, that was well said, and it's just the protein is the it's like the gold rush.
Yeah. And look, from a consumer perspective, people just want to, they count their proteins. You mentioned protein bars earlier that have high amounts of protein. So everybody's protein counting, and that counting leads to more demand for it. And then also, obviously, innovation. This is why we have put next gen proteins on our list. And I'm really excited about this trend. All right. The next trend is probably my favorite one of all of them. I'm a Sagittarius, and there you go. So, trend number four. And you're a Sagittarius as well, Brooke. So, this is the perfect one for us. I
Yes,
would.
it is. Sagittarius love to travel, for those of you that don't know.
Yeah. So wellness travel, our next trend for 2026.
Okay.
Tell me a
Yeah.
bit more about this one, Brooke.
This is one of my favorites as well because I love to travel for wellness. So I will seek out a hotel for its spa or its kind of like holistic offerings and things like that. So 2025 Travel Insights revealed a massive increase in trips centered around longevity, sleep optimization, hot cold therapy, which is interesting, forest bathing, which is getting out in nature, connecting with nature, gut-friendly cuisine, and nature immersion. So travelers have begun seeking experiences. So there is a hotel, um, a hospitality company called the Auberge, and the Auberge resorts actually offer their adventure centric. So we're seeing hotels and hospitality chains offer this. And then in 2026, expect circadian rhythm friendly hotels, high-end mineral therapies, low inflammation menus, infrared sauna lounges, and wellness itineraries, which you can find. And then I wanted to read you all this interesting report that came out that I saved. It's quick, and it is about wellness travel and the wellness travel boom. But by 2030, one in three travelers will book a hotel purely for its wellness offerings, which I found very interesting. And that was according to the Global Wellness Institute. That's one in three is a lot.
And that's huge. And this is why it's in our top five, actually, in the fourth position. I agree with you. And I think if you even look at there are more and more spas opening, or the spas are being invested in. There are hotels which are purely for wellness. I mean, they have been around for a long time, but again, there's suddenly like much more interest when it comes to wellness, and there's just a bigger audience for wellness, right? The industry has been growing. So obviously, what you don't want to do is like you have adopted all these great habits over the year, and then you go on a trip and suddenly you stop all of them, right? So making sure you get the foods that you actually like. You have been working so hard on your wellness routine. And similarly, we're stressed out, lots going on, etc. And we're seeking out, wellness as the ultimate benefit of a holiday, as opposed to just being like, letting loose a little bit. So I do think huge trend, absolutely on board for this one. And we see more and more hotel groups offering specific packages, or the hotels that are specialized in the space really expanding. So watch this space. Wellness travel is going to be huge in the years to come, specifically in 2026. All right, moving on to our top three. Now, it's getting very, very, very exciting here. Brooke, why don't you take this one?
Women's hormones. So women's hormones, hormonal health, it goes mainstream. We are seeing the conversation about perimenopause, menopause, women's hormones in general everywhere now. Whether it's in the paper, it's on the television, it's on social media, it's in conversation in at the dinner table even and at dinner parties. I think that the taboo of talking about this is no longer. Women are speaking out and I think now being heard more about their hormonal path. So it's really exciting to see this go more mainstream. And hopefully, what that means is that we'll have a lot more support in the medical field, whether it's supplements to apps to different types of care, and also even working out and gyms and how they can cater to women in their different times of the month, et cetera, and different stages of their life. So, we're breaking out of the niche space and we're entering a more mass conversation. We're seeing everything from PMS support, perimenopause education, and metabolic balance, mood regulation, libido wellness, and thyroid health. So these are all gaining visibility. So 2026, expect to see more of this. And the category is going to experience a mass product innovation, is what I think, and also wider access to hormone testing, content that demystifies cycles, and supplements that are tailored to different life stages. And I think at Hum, what I really like about the company is that Hum really supports, has always championed this for women. So this is not new to Hum, but it certainly is newer to kind of a more global conversation, and then also in the US as well. So expect big things here.
Yeah, and I think, it always starts with education and awareness, and there's just so much more awareness around this topic. And I do hope that the medical profession specifically incorporates more training and education when it comes to healthcare professionals around this topic. The next one, so this one we're really like, this was like a very close call, I would say. It's not like, as when it comes to the top five, you can obviously debate them endlessly. Um, top that I think our second choice is probably, you could argue could should be on number one, but um wait until you listen to number one and then we'll explain why we made that decision. And again, there wasn't such a thing. I just want to call this out. We didn't like have like, official opinion polls here, etc. This was like literally like reading materials, understanding on where the industry is right now, where things are going, where we see the biggest momentum. But this one is an exciting one. On number two, we have Brooke,
Oral GLP-1s.
oral GLP-1s. So GLP-1s are everywhere, and obviously one of the barriers to entry is the fact that you have to inject them, right? So weight loss drugs like Wegovy, like tirzepatide, all these drugs you need to inject on a weekly basis in various doses. And two of the leaders in the field, so Eli and Novo, they're both they have that in the pipeline. I think it's still pending FDA approval, but our prediction for next year is that these drugs will be approved, and we'll have the two top players within the industry launching an oral application. So I think it's a once a day pill. I think in both cases, double check the research here. But I do think this takes away the last, I would say, hurdle. And I think with drug prices coming down radically as well, we see this one as one of the biggest trends. I mean, obviously, semaglutides. I always say this to people, what AI is within technology, semaglutide is literally our AI moment here. So my point is like it's huge already. It's just gonna get even bigger because you're literally removing a lot of the barriers to entry. And people always ask me this, it's like when, they bring up these drugs, like, what do you think? Because you obviously work in health and wellness, you're taking obviously a natural approach to health and wellness. And I always say I'm a huge fan. I really am a huge fan. And the reason is because they have really had such an impact on our society. Like if we look at data all the time here, and obesity rates have been going up every year, year over year, for the past, I think, 30, 40, 50 years, you name it. There was literally no solution in sight. And suddenly there is something that is actually reversing these trends. And of course, with any drug, there are side effects, etc. So I'm not saying it's this, holy grail of all solutions, but I do think it's working. It's making a difference. Healthcare costs are hopefully going to be controlled by having more offer like options available. As I said earlier, this is why I think it's a big trend. But generally speaking, I think we're at this huge pivotal moment within health and wellness, and this consumer specifically, when it comes to GLP-1s, is going to be one of the most interesting consumers to follow because they're completely reinventing their wellness routines, which I think is going to be a perfect segue into number one. But before we go there, Brooke, what's your perspective on oral GLP-1s?
I think this is going to change the game in a way we don't even know yet.
Yeah.
I think it's a massive, massive acceleration on so many levels, and I'm, curious to keep my finger on the pulse of it and to follow along to see how this revolutionizes the weight loss medication market. But beyond, weight loss, that this is also something that is supporting metabolism. Um, it's also stabilizing blood sugar, and in helping with inflammation. So there's so much coming out the more that it's being studied and on different types of people dealing with different things. So this is just going to be huge. I don't even think I can wrap my head around it, to be honest. Very thrilled to see what happens here. And then, it's a great solution, as you said. It's for the barrier to entry. People don't want to use a needle. So we'll see how this goes.
All right. Which leads us to our top trend for 2026. And this one may shock people that we've put in the top spot, but hear us out. We had a lot of conversations about this one using our very Hum specific methodology, all that. You may accuse us of being biased. We're not. We're just human beings here. And this is really what our gut is telling us for 2026. Should we do it together, this one? I do think so. All right. On a count to three. Top spot, one, two, three. Fiverr. And the reason we have put this one on the top spot is like, obviously, we're having lots of momentum with creatine, with protein, but we do think that fiber is probably the one where we have the most room to grow. And here's why 95% of the population doesn't get enough fiber. That's just a fact. And now, with the emergence of like new weight loss drugs, changes in people's consumption when it comes to protein, higher dosages of protein on a daily basis. That means you need also more fiber to keep things moving, but also fiber has a lot of other health benefits, including natural GLP-1 support, etc. So we think fiber is going to be huge next year, and that's why we put in the top spot. Brooke, what's your perspective on fiber?
I'm a huge fan. I love fiber. It is very important to have it in your diet, and fiber also supports metabolic health, stable energy, huge, improved immunity, and even clearer skin. So I'm really into fiber. It keeps things moving, if you know what I mean. From a gut perspective, this is great for gut health. Fiber is key also for cardiovascular health. I like to see this trend and I like to see it continue. I think that fiber, in tandem with protein, are just hopefully going to continue to be big in 2026.
All right, and that brings us to the perfect end of
Yeah.
this episode. I hope you enjoyed the trends. Brooke, it was so lovely to have you in this episode. And I really want to say a massive thank you for all the work you've been doing on this. You have been literally the brain behind so many great content here at Hum. And like, I was so happy to have this chat with you today. And to everyone out there, if you liked what you heard, if you disagree with the trends, drop us a comment. If you agree, drop us a comment. Please follow us, share. And we wish you a really, really happy 2026 from all of us here. And a massive thanks to Fatima, our production assistant. And we see you next year.